Okay, so let's begin. As usual, we'll go through each question. We'll stop along the way. I'm Yoel, and I'm here with my colleague David Barkatz from the Development Department. And let's begin. I'm going to share the desktop. And share the desktop. One moment. There we go. Okay, so first question. How come even though I define a normalization rule as shared, it cannot be edited by a different user? What's the point of it being shared if someone else cannot edit it? Okay, this is one which has actually been fixed in a later release, but let's first see about our problem, and we'll talk about what does the shared actually do. I'm in the metadata editor here, and for example, I'm going to sign out of this person, and I'm going to log in as my colleague Cindy Brady, and she logs in. Ooh, where am I? One moment, please. Cindy. Okay, I log in as a different colleague. One moment, please. And it's Marcia Brady, not Cindy Brady. Sorry about that. So Marcia logs in, goes to the metadata editor. Sorry about that also. Off to a tough start. That's all right. Bob Barker logs in. He goes into the metadata editor. Okay, so Bob Barker is in. He's in the metadata editor. He's got his merge rule, his normalization rules. All he can do here is look at them. He can either duplicate or look at the properties of them. He can't do anything specific to them. And for example, if he duplicates this one and he makes his own, Bob rule, we'll call that rule. He makes it shared and enabled, and now he's got his own rules. Save. Now if somebody else logs in, however, Bob logs out, somebody else logs in. Now this person logs in. He goes to the metadata editor. He goes to the rules. He sees Bob's rule, but he can't do anything with it. Even though it was shared, he can't look at it. So this has been fixed, actually, that a shared rule can also be deleted and other functions by a different user. The functionality that we called it shared was that if somebody is in the resource configuration, metadata configuration, and he wants to make a process. For example, I'm going to choose Mark 21 bibliographic and go to the normalization tab and add a process. He can make a process here and then when he goes to choose the rule, we'll make it a marked rule normalization. Next. Oops, sorry about that. We've got so many here. Okay, he can see Bob's rule, even though he didn't make it. That was the original intention of it being shared. Here you don't see the private ones. You only see the shared. However, it came up that most places who brought to our attention the fact that it's shared expected it also to be deletable and editable by a different user. So that change has also been made. For example, now I'm going into a different environment Now I'm somewhere else. And you can see here I'm in the March release. David, was this changed in March or February?
March.
March. Okay, so this is in the March release. So now, for example, I'm logged in as Cindy Brady. If Cindy comes in and she goes to the rules, normalization rules shared, and let's say she's going to make a rule. Let's copy one from here. Okay. So Cindy comes in, goes to the metadata editor, and says, file new normalization rule, and she says this is Cindy's rule. That's going to be shared and enabled. Oh, I'm in the wrong metadata editor. Thanks for pointing that out. Wow, one of my colleagues told us that I went into the wrong metadata. I went into the December release. Okay, now I'm back in the March release. Thank you very much for pointing that out. Okay, so I'm in the normalizations. I make a Cindy's rule. Again, Cindy's rule, shared, enabled, save. Okay, and that's shared, made by, we see on the top right, Cindy Brady. Save. Okay, everything's fine. Now, she logs out. Somebody else logs in. I'm in here now. Here now. Oh, sorry about all these environments. I don't know if it's showing right. Here. Okay. And he goes, metadata editor, rules, and even though he didn't make this rule, he can still edit, delete, duplicate, and properties. Whereas previously, all he can do is look like this, duplicate, and properties. Now, if it's shared, any user on a shared rule, instead of seeing this icon and only duplicate and properties, now can do edit, delete, duplicate and properties and sees the proper icon. Okay, so that's why it's called shared, because in a process you can still choose it as opposed to the private ones, plus a change in the March release that if it's shared, any user can edit, delete, duplicate, and see properties. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing for a moment, get a look at the participants. So I see more people have joined since we started the first question. Are there any questions or comments there? You can raise your hand if you have a question or a comment, or you can just start talking. Laura, do you have a question, or is your hand still up from before? Okay. All right, so apparently there's no questions or comments. We'll move on to the next one. Resharing the desktop. Oh, wrong one. There we go. Okay, number 2. Hello. Hello. We want to know, how can we copy the contents of one field to another via a normalization rule? We know that we can move the contents of a field as follows, but we need to know how we can copy the contents. This is how we move. Okay, so there's another parameter for the copy. This would really move. It changes it from 300 to 900. And for the copy, and there's another question after that which is related to this one, we have here several different examples of copying, because what's come up as people copy is they want to see either the same indicators in the new field that they're copying it to, or different indicators, or no indicators, or they want to create indicators. So here we have 4 different examples. And by the way, if you're in, I'm going to close this online help for a moment to show something. When you're in Alma, as I am now, and you do help, browse online help, we've collected many different, what we think are useful examples of normalization rules. Whenever a good one comes up from a support incident or an implementation, and we think, okay, this would be a good one as an example for future people, we put it into this big list we're about to see here. I'm searching the online help for normalization rule examples. And here we have normalization rules, syntax, and examples, and a nice list of all different kinds here. Adding fields, moving fields, etc., etc. And we do have some examples here for copying. Copy field. Here we go, for example. Copy field. So that's what we're going to do now, copy field, and we're going to look at examples. Here we go. We got a lot of them here. Oh, 2 of them. We're going to add these other 4, though, in February release, the 4 that we're going to show now. So let's take a look at these different options. Here we've got copying, a field which has indicators to a field with no indicators. So let's say here, we're going to put this on the side here. Oops, sorry about that. My windows keep opening and closing. Oh. Okay. So here, ooh, sorry about this. What's going on with my notepad? All right. Here we're saying copy field with indicators to field with no indicators. All right, so we see our syntax here. I've got this an extra big font for everybody. The syntax here is copy the 245, meaning any 245 really, until we have the exists, 245.10, 245.14, etc., to 902. And we don't want to keep the indicators that we have in our original 245. So this is how we designate to copy it to a field with no indicators. And this is how we designate to only copy it if it's 245.14. The indicators, just like here and just like from another question in the future, are indicated via the squiggly brackets with a comma between each indicator. So let's see this now as an example. Let's take a record. This is copy 245.14 to 902. So let's go to records. I'll open up a record. Here I have 245.13, just as an example. It's not actually, this would be an Alma. Okay, so I'm going to go to split editor mode. As everybody knows how I can test the rules in the editor. I'm going to take my 245.14 to 902, and right now I don't expect anything to happen because I don't have a 245.14. This condition here does not exist. Preview, there's no new 902, everything's good. However, if I change this record now, and I'll make this 245.14, I don't even have to save, back to my right window, now I do expect to get a 902, and I expect to get my 902 with no indicators, because this condition now does exist right here where I'm moving my mouse. Preview. Wonderful. So now I got the 902 from the 245. I copied it. The 245 already exists. Like the asker says, we already know how to move. I'm not doing change field. I'm doing copy field, and it really did copy. If I had had in here something else, S, which is S5, which doesn't really have a meaning, but a 902 is a local one, and now we do preview. Now it moved it to 902 S5. Okay, let's look at the other copies before we go to questions. So now we've got another example here. Copy 245.14 to 902.14. So here we'll say copy field and keep original indicators. Put a bunch of these in. All right, so now our parameter in what it's being copied to is identical to the parameters of what it's being copied from. I'm saying copy it from 245 only if exists 245 with a 1 and a 4, and copy it to a 902 which also has a 1 and a 4. So now, let me put something in between each rule. So now it should remain the same indicators. Let's take a look here. We have a 245.14 here, preview. Here's my 902.14, here's my 245.14. Stay the same, everything's good. Back to my rule, back to my record. If I didn't have a 245.14 here, I got a 245.12, and I preview. Now, of course, nothing happens because my if exists condition right here is not true. Okay, so here we're copying it to the same indicators. We're copying it to a 1 and a 4 only if there already is a 1 and a 4. Okay, another example with the indicators in the copying field is just copy the field to the field. I don't care about indicators. And we'll see what that means. So here we're going to say, copy field to field, don't care about indicators. Field to field, and do not care about indicators. This would have been a simple answer. The person asks, how do we copy? On a very simple level, we could have said, well, what happens? Notepad doesn't like to open. I would have just said, oh, use copy field. But of course, we don't give quick and simple answers. We give full, detailed answers. So now we're going to say, copy it. I don't care what the indicator has, and it's going to go to the same thing. It's going to keep the same indicators, but unlike here, where it keeps the same indicators, it doesn't matter what indicators it's starting with. Let's see what we mean. 300 to 901. So I've got a 301 preview. 301 copies to 901 1. Back to the rule. And if I had had just a 300 preview, now I have, 300, back to my rule, 300 to 901, 300 here. Let me save this just in case. Okay, 300 preview, 300, now it's copied just to a 901. No indicators. It started with no indicators, it ends with no indicators. Because we don't care about the indicators. Whatever's in the original goes to the final one. A 2A, you've probably never seen 2A indicators. I haven't. Now here, preview. 300 2A, 901 2A. It keeps whatever indicators it has, it goes to, and it copies it regardless of what indicators it already has, because we do not care about indicators. Does whatever's there. All right, one more example. Copy the 300 to a 90112. Now here we don't have the if exists. Let's take a look at this next to our other ones. I'm going to make these fonts a tad smaller so we can see everything on one screen. Format, fonts, let's go to 14 and see what happens. Okay, so now, here, it's similar, hold on a minute. It's similar to this one, copy field regardless of indicators and copy it to field with specific indicators. What do we mean here? In the case here, we said copy the 245 to 90214 only if the 245 has a 1 and a 4 to start with. Same thing here. We said copy the 245 to a 902 with no indicators if the 245 from the beginning has a 1 and a 4. Here we're saying copy 300 to 90112, and I don't care what's in the 300 from the beginning, any indicators or no indicators, because I do not have the if exists. That's taken out the if exists, so it's always going to be copied. Let's see what happens there. This is a nice little file we made here. I think I'll save this while we're talking, if you don't mind. Use this for the 5 o'clock session. This will be copy examples. All right. Sorry for my informality. Okay, so here, let's say we've got a 300 with a 2, which we do. Preview, 2A even. It gets copied to 90112. It would get copied to a 90112 even if we had a 1A. Preview. Still gets copied, 12 to 90112. Still gets copied because I don't have my if exists, and it would also get copied even if I have nothing here. Now there's no indicators. I preview it, and I still get 1, 2, because I don't have a if condition here. Okay, that covers in depth how can we copy the contents. Those are the 4 ways to copy. Those examples are going to be in the February release list of online help examples that we just saw a moment ago. And I will stop sharing for a moment and see what kind of questions or comments we have here. Any questions or comments? No questions or comments. All these people, we've been talking for 26 minutes, and there hasn't been one question or comment. Is there a copy subfield? Oh, that's a very interesting one. Is there a copy subfield? Wow. Well, let's take a look here. We have, this is our list of online help. Copy subfield. We have a remove subfield. We have an add subfield. Let me just clarify what you're asking. And you can either talk or say something, or talk or send it in. Are you saying, for example, let me first of all make this one larger. Are you saying, for example, I want to copy subfield B to 300 subfield A, something like that?
Yeah, excuse me, please share your screen. Thank you.
Oh, sorry about that. Share my desktop. Okay. Are you saying, for example, here, copy subfield 245B to some other field, some other subfield? Whoever asked the question, let me go and see if they're chatting. Copy contents. Okay, the person wrote, oh, copy contents from one subfield to another subfield, e.g., 500A to 856Z. That's an interesting one. I'm going to first of all write that one down for my personal notes, because that could be interesting just as a personal test. David, are you familiar with something along these lines? The 500A to, first of all, we could copy the whole 500 and then get rid of the other subfields. However, copying one specific subfield, I don't think there's a specific rule for that, is there? Copying.
And to try copy dot subfield to.
Let's give it a try. Let's have some fun. Okay, so we're gonna try to have some fun here. So the specific example, e.g. 500A to 856Z. Okay, we probably need to put in a bunch of conditions there, like if whatever exists, etc. But let's say, just for the fun of it, I have here a 500A, I'll say signed by the author, all right? And then I have another 85640, or let's just say an 856, with a U http://www.yahoo.com. Okay, so now we want to copy the 500A to an 856U. Very interesting. So let's first of all make a new one, David, or we want to copy an existing one and just change it around? Take an existing one and we'll change it around?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say we'll call this copy 500A to 856Z. All right, on the spot, we're going to experiment. We'll make that shared and enabled. Okay, what do we want to do here? You want to type there? Okay. All right, this is going to be, I get the mouse. This is going to be interesting now. 500A, we're either going to get an error message, or it's going to work, or it's going to do something completely different. Three options. Yeah?
I think if we create a new
856? Save. Maybe we need to do append something. What was suffix? We got that suffix option. Okay, hold on though, let's see here. We'll just see what will happen for the fun of it. Records. Here's our record. Okay. So split editor, right in here, rules, edit. Here we go. Preview. What did it do? Nothing. Oh, it made it, yeah. It's going out of here. It took it out of the 500Z. No, it left it there. It didn't do anything. Right? Go ahead.
We cannot put an subfield condition.
All right, try it that way.
Yeah.
Here it made a new one. It just copied it right there. Okay, we have one other option before we move on. We have here the suffix, right? We can append. This is appending, though, a hard-coded value and not a subfield. We're adding online to something. So that's not going to do it either. Okay, we're going to have to look into that one. Offhand, we don't know a way to do that. It might not be possible, or it might be possible, and we just don't know how. Okay, so thanks for the question. It's a nice academic exercise also for us later. And let's move on to the next question. Okay, I'm having trouble using indicators in a normalization rule. Am I doing something wrong? This works, okay, and he gives an example of methods in enzymology. He's adding the whole field 490 with the subfield A, methods in enzymology. Then he or she, it's all anonymous, wants to add a 490 with first indicator 1, second indicator blank. Let's see what happens if we try this one. So let's make a brand new one. Okay. File, new. Oh, we can even play with it right here. Back to the rule. Okay, so this is what they're trying to do. And of course, if we do preview, fail during the compilation. Okay, the reason being, between a field and the indicators, there has to be a dot. The syntax is field, dot. Indicators in squiggly brackets, divided by a comma, dot. Subfield, dot. Text. So we have field, dot. Then we have indicator 1, indicator 2, close the squiggly bracket, dot. Subfield, no spaces of course, dot. Text. That's the syntax, and it was missing the dot here. Let's just give it a whirl and see what happens. Preview now. Wonderful. And we've added one of those into here. What is it? Add field. Control F. Okay, here's an example. Oh, that's just the 901 without a subfield, without indicators. Next. Here we go. So we have an example in our online help. Here it's setting a 940, and this is the period right here, the dot, that was missing here. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. Let's just see if there's any questions or comments on that one. Stop the sharing for a minute. Let's see what we got here. Okay, no questions or comments on that one. Let's move on. This is another one which has been fixed, but it's fixed in the current release. Am I sharing my desktop? No, I'm not. Okay, now I'm sharing. Hold on a moment. Okay, when I try to delete a normalization rule, I sometimes get a message that it is related to a process, and I must delete the process or remove the rule from the process before I can delete the normalization rule. Correct. It often can take a long time to find the process that uses the rule. What is the fastest way to do this? Okay, and we actually had more than one support incidents and Salesforce cases on this one. But now, with our latest edition of Alma, which of course is the December release, if you try to delete one which belongs to a process, you're not allowed to. For example, and Alma will warn you, and it'll not only warn you, it'll tell you which process it belongs to. So, if we go to Resource Configuration menu, for example, into Metadata Configuration, into Mark 21 Bibliographic, a normalization rule can be either, actually it can be in here or here, but let's say it's in one of these rules, in the normalization, and if I take, for example, Mark 21 Bib Normalize on Save, I see that one of my rules is called 0 create second indicator all languages. This is a new, super powerful normalization rule, which we're going to put in the default version. We're going to see it soon. And if somebody comes along now and tries to delete this, watch what's going to happen. He goes to the metadata editor. He looks at his rules, and he says, here it is, he says, I don't need this one. This is a silly rule. I know who made it. I'm going to delete it. And he tries to delete it. He gets there, right? And then he says, not only can he not delete it, he can't even override. He just can't delete it. And it tells him which process it's already in so we can quickly and easily go there. Okay, so let's close that one before we get out of here. And that's another straightforward one. Let's stop sharing for one moment and see if there's any questions or comments on that one. Any questions or comments? No questions or comments. Are there no questions or comments because there's no more communication? Can you raise your hands quickly if you can hear me okay? Okay, the hands are going up, so that means everyone can hear us. Here's another question. Hi. Is it possible to create a normalization rule? You want to copy the 856U into the portfolio. In other words, copy from a bibliographic record to an inventory. No, there's not. However, there is, on a whole separate issue, there's a job we added not too long ago in one of the recent releases to globally update portfolios. So theoretically, you could make a set based on the 856U, which is an indexed field, make a set of all of those with a common, it would take you a couple of times, all of those with a common 856U, and then on that run the batch job that updates the portfolio. Earlier, should it have been copy subfield instead of copy field? Okay, let's give it a try. We have a suggestion from the audience. Let's see. This is in our earlier test. It's 7:40. I see this one is not only bothering's not the word, occupying me, it's occupying the crowd as well. So what was that one we were playing with? Right here, edit. So should it have been copy subfield? Is there a copy subfield, David? Like that, straight away, or is it capital, not capital, dots? Save. Let's see, is it going to scream when I save? Okay. So there's no copy subfield. Just for the fun, I'm going to go here. Yeah, we got someone want to say something?
Yeah, are you working on your desktop now?
Oh, sorry. I keep forgetting to share the desktop. I want to make a enhancement request in WebEx that have a parameter there, like define number of seconds before warning. I can define 10 seconds. If I'm not sharing my desktop and it goes by 10 seconds, I get a warning. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm looking now here. What we did when I forgot to share my desktop is we tried just for the fun of it to put in a copy subfield, and when we save it, we get an error message that there is no such thing as copy subfield, because one of our studio guests recommended copy subfield. I think we're going to have to look into this on our own time, because I see we have add subfield and remove subfield. We don't have a copy subfield. It's never come up until now. I don't even recall a request like that. Okay, so maybe next time around we'll have that. Okay, when I try to delete a normalization rule, we did that one. Okay. And then they said which previous system they used, but we're trying to keep this anonymous. And I won't even say that it starts with the first two letters as Alma. There was a way to define words which, if present in the 245 field, would cause the non-filing indicator to automatically get populated. I assume I can do this now with a normalization rule, but how? So in that previous system, the name of which we won't mention, like Voldemort, the name we won't mention, there was a rule there, a built-in rule, that if you have, for example, a record, and it's in French, and it starts with la is the in French, right? Then I should automatically get a 3 here if it's empty when they save it. Here I'm going to save. Look at that. Beautiful. I automatically got an indicator. So the answer to the question here, how can I do it? All right. Before the session today, we set it up. Same thing here if I have los. which is Spanish for the. So if I have here Spanish in my 008 and I have Los, look at that, I automatically get a 4. Unbelievable. And if I have Alma, now I'm not going to get anything because it's already filled in. The way it worked in that previous system was if it's already filled in, nothing happens. Here I don't fill it in. And save. Oh, I still have Spanish. It correctly didn't do it. Like we said before, there's no bugs, it's all human errors. I left it Spanish by accident. Now I make it English. Save it, and watch this. Where my mouse is, the 3 automatically gets it in there. So how did that happen? A few things. We already saw that in the metadata configuration for Mark 21 bibliographic for normalize on save, I have in my task list a Mark-Druhl normalization. That Mark-Druhl normalization is called Create Second Indicator All Languages. This is the one we looked at before when we tried to prove successfully that we can't delete a rule if it's being used. Now let's go take a look at that rule. And where is it here? You'll create second indicator all languages. And again, this is something we're going to be putting as a default, one of the default normalization rules. If a library doesn't want it, they can remove it. It'll be in there by default in a later release. I'm going to click on Edit to look at it. Now this is a super long one, so I'm going to copy the whole thing out so we can look at it in a larger file. Okay. I think I can close this one. Let's say save this one in new. Okay. So what do we do here? Whoa. Here we say we have several rules. Originally, by the way, we can check, this is our French speaker. And we were checking with her that everything here is okay. We can get rid of that, actually. Okay. What do we do here? We say, first of all, what the language is. We're taking our language not from the 041A, which we know can be repeatable, but from the 008 fixed field, the 3 positions from position 35. And we've got it now for English, French, Spanish, German, Italian, Dutch, and Portuguese. And then we said, if exists 245 with a first indicator anything, including blank, and a second indicator blank, and then subfield A, and then one of these, A, these are all articles in Portuguese, and then a blank, and then some text, change the second indicator to whatever we have here. So for example, in Italian, if we have io in a 245 with a second indicator blank, change the second indicator to 2. And that's what we did for all of these. We took the defaults from several European libraries, European because they had the mixture of the defaults in that previous system plus new ones they added along the years, and we put them all together like that. So that's how it works. That's the syntax, and it'll be in a future release one day. So back to the question, yes, there is a way to do it. It's using the change second indicator parameter, and it'll be in there one day. Any questions or comments there? I'm going to stop sharing for a moment and ask if there's any questions. Okay, no questions.
Hang on, Joel, we do have a question. Sorry, it's Eb here.
Okay, go right ahead. Yep.
Question for you. Hi.
Well, how about, is it possible to get to the normalization rule that you were just discussing? Is it possible, at the moment it looks like the rule that you've got is only if that second indicator is unpopulated. Would it be possible to get something where even if that second indicator is populated, but say it's populated incorrectly, and we just want something to override it, would that be possible to get a rule to do that?
Well, what we could do is say, well, it wouldn't matter to you. Let me clarify. It seems it wouldn't matter to you if it was populated correctly or not, because in any case, you put in the correct value, right?
That's the thing. We just want to have something so that even if it comes in wrong, upon save it becomes correct.
And you would want to continue that?
Yeah.
Okay. So what would happen? I'm going to go back to Alma. Oh, let me share. Share my desktop. Okay. So, for example, if I were to say here, like this, let's just see what's going to happen, and then we'll talk. So now I'm putting in an asterisk here instead of blank. And I'm saving it. And now I'll get a record. And in order to test it, okay, that's English. And I have the. And it's already filled in. It's filled in wrong. So now I take this record, rule, sorry, and edit. Okay, so now we're saying anything in there, make it 4. Let's try to go that so we can see more. And preview. So let's see what's going to happen. It's already filled in but wrong. It didn't touch it. Let's go back. Oh, because I still have un. Hold on, let me save this one. It depends when you open, when you close, etc. Okay. Oh, it already fixed it when I did it. Yeah, because I changed the rule. That's nice. All right, here we go. You see it's 3? It's 3. Preview here. And it changes it to 4. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's perfect.
Okay. The reason we left it blank, though, was in that previous system, which we're not mentioning, it only did it if the second indicator was blank. But, as you see, you can put in a asterisk. David, is there a parameter which would mean whether it's blank or filled in? Because I see that asterisk means it's already filled in. Either way. I could repeat every line, though, as long as I didn't contradict one after the other. Okay, so that's how we would do it if it's already filled in. Next, I'm still sharing. Okay. I see it's 7:52, so we have 2 questions. Let's take this one, or let's see, which one's going to be more interesting? Work on a group of holding records. That's going to take more than 7 minutes. Okay, so we'll do this one. I need a rule which will delete the 035 if it starts with CPU and ends with 01 CPU. Okay, so here we have an interesting one. We want to delete the 035, but we need to be extra careful that we're not deleting it. We're not making a rule that says delete 035 if whatever condition exists, and then it can go and delete them all. So, I have a rule here called delete the 035, starts with CPU and ends with 01 CPU. Now there's an example here also I believe from a real library, actually, which we usually try to change. Yes, this is from a real library in the New England area of America, in a state that starts with MASS. So here they're saying if it starts with MBU and ends with O1BOSU, then remove it. But what's the whole trick here? And why is the condition here instead of here? That's the smart part. We're going to see now. If I have a record, oh, wrong one. Okay, if I have a record, all right, they've even got my examples in here. Okay, I've got 1035 called whatever, another 035 which starts with CPU and ends with O1 CPU. This one should be deleted. Then I have one which starts with CPU, and I have another one that ends with O1 CPU. So this fits part of the condition. This fits part of the condition. This fits no condition, and this fits the exact condition. It starts with parentheses CPU, it ends with O1 CPU. We do preview, and as you can see, this one got deleted. It's no longer, this one here got deleted. You know, it looks very simple. However, if, and has happened, if you were to put the condition here, and you were to say, if exists field 035, with, starting with 0, let's see what will happen. Give me a hand here, David, formulating it. If I were to put this condition here, how do you do it? If, when exists, like this, right? Mm-hmm. Then remove field 035 and I get rid of this. Right. Right. Okay, and then I get rid of this now. Watch what will happen now. Preview. Now I've got rid of all of the 035s. Everybody understand why? Because here, I gave the condition at the beginning. I said, if there's a 035 like this in the record, then remove the 035. So it came and it said, hey, I see one of these. I'm going to get rid of the 035. It got rid of all the 035s. However, in this one here, the original one, here we say remove the 035 only if that specific one that I'm removing has the 035. Okay, that brings us to 7:57 local time. Are there any questions or comments there? I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. See if there's any questions or comments. No questions or comments? Can you raise your hand if you still hear us okay? Let's make sure people are still with us. Okay, Shirley's still with us. Natalie's still with us. That's good. Okay, that was a nice session. I'm glad for the participation. That copy subfield one, that was an interesting question. And we look forward. Next week is going to be customization of letters. So we hope to see everyone then. Send in your questions early if you have questions. And we'll see you all then. Thanks a lot.